The value of cars has gone absolutely freaking bonkers in recent times.
Now, it doesn't matter if you've got an old classic or you've got a muscle car or even modern cars, the tide has been rising everywhere. So now that the RX-7 project is finished today, we're going to find out what it's really worth.
Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods. This is our 40-year-old SA22 RX-7. It's an early model from 1982. We've spent about 6 months worth of videos on this thing, fixing it up. EFI conversion, new suspension, new brakes, new wheels, tidying up a whole lot of things to just make it nice to drive, to sort of bring this classic into the future. And yes, now it is considered a classic car.
Now, regardless of what kind of car you've got, one of the common questions that people always ask is, what is your car worth? Does adding modifications detract from its value, or does it add? Sometimes you can get a car, spend $20,000 worth of modifications, and now the car is actually worth less, and people are always talking about it. So today, we thought we'd try and find out as close as we can once and for all. So we're down at the Shannons Sydney Auction Centre, and not only are there auctions going on here, but it's also a place that you can get your car valued, and that is exactly what we're going to do today. So we are down here at the Shannons Auction House in Sydney, and I'm down here with Paul, who I had just said, it's nice to meet you, but it turns out that he's been doing our insurance for years. I just hadn't met him in real life before, so thank you very much. Now, this here is the auction house, of course, where Shannons do lots of their auctions. At the moment, second-hand car market has gone literally through the roof, so not only are cars auctioned here where people can come and inspect them, but also you can bring your car down here to get it revalued, because Shannons does agreed value. Now, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about this amazing space? What are we looking at here?
About 45 to 50 cars and bikes of all eras, something for everyone here on display, and you can come and check it out at any time.
Well, there's something for me right here, this Mini. This is what, I mean, this is legit what I want,
Yeah.
right? So how do I find out more information about it so I can buy it?
Two options: come down, have a look at it, see the quality. All our photos, inspections, stories are done online, so shannons.com.au. Click on the auctions tab in the middle at the top. You can have a look. We do pre-purchase inspections that you can have a look to sort of understand underneath the car. They're all done in-house, independent. We don't do them.
Okay.
We also do a story, which is basically information from the vendor, and obviously heaps of photos. We've got a hoist over in the corner there. All the cars go on the hoist. We do underbody photos, inside, all that sort of stuff.
Can I get a discount? Because, like, the odometer on this is broken, so that says 880.
Yes.
So being that that's broken, can I ask for a discount? Like, how does that work?
No, this car actually does 880 kilometres since it was bought brand new, never been registered. So this
Stop
is,
it.
This
Stop
is,
it.
Yeah. You're going to be paying for this one.
Okay.
This is not going to be a cheap Mini.
All right. Well, luckily, I've already got a Mini, but that looks wonderful. Now, do you need to have a special kind of car? What's a special car? That's the thing.
Well,
what is a special car these days?
It's subjective, isn't it? So special can mean anything. It can be something that's got sentimental value. You look at like the Mercedes wagon behind us, you know, somebody's grandfather or parents took them to school in it. Could be something they've dreamt of. Poster car, you know, who doesn't love a Ferrari? But something for everyone. We've got, you know, the oldest car here is a Packard in the corner that is 98 years old.
Whoa.
And then we come through to everything like Escort, that's been sort of modified, perfect cars and coffee style car, through to, Ferrari 360 behind us, Morris Minor, Tirana. There's something for everyone. So it doesn't matter whether you're into Japanese cars, Australian muscle, European, American. There's something for, you know, there's a Camaro over the corner there. There's a 240Z. There's a BMW 3 litre.
There's a what? Oh, there is. See, that's what I love about it, though, because that's also a very Mighty Car Mods attitude, that it's like everyone's in, you know?
Yes.
Like there's something for everybody. Oh, look at this. This is amazing. A 260, beautiful. This is what I find interesting. Everything is clean and beautiful and looks kind of showroom. And then over here, I'm seeing a Sandy that's Sandy.
Barn find.
Okay, it's a barn find.
Sundowner.
And it actually has a sun on the side. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Do you know anything about this one?
Yeah, these were a bit of Australian specific things. So they did Escort Sundowners in like the Europe and UK. This one's a factory manual V8 Sundowner van. Hasn't been used for a long time, and it's a great option because for someone, you can do what you want with this. You can restore it, you can just make it drivable and use it. You can do whatever you want with it.
I think there's probably a lot of parallels at the moment with used cars and renovation. Obviously, a few years ago, everybody was into renovating houses, and people were often houses at auction that were dilapidated were going more at auction than houses that were already fine because people wanted that dream of fixing things up.
Exactly.
I think it's it's probably a similar parallel with cars, but people often they can't estimate how much actually is required to get it looking the way they want it to look.
And everyone loves the idea of a project, particularly if you've got kids or, you know, even parents, you know, that you want to have a little bit of a weekend project with. But then the reality kicks in of finding parts and, you know, the actual space to pull something apart.
Oh, we've played those games. It's funny, you know, the 14 years we've been doing Mighty Come-Ons, we've done over 100 project cars. And sometimes we kind of go, oh my God, because some people would do one project in their lifetime, like that's their big project. And so this car is definitely a candidate for that because it needs a lot of work, but I love that it's just presented exactly like this. All right, well, let's move over to the RX-7 then, because that's why we're here. I gather that used prices of cars have gone through the roof. I've been talking about a little bit recently, but even Mark 7 Golfs, like 2017, 2018 models, the cheapest version I think they did was like a grid edition, which was like 50 grand new. Now you're seeing Mark 7 Golfs for like $70,000. And it's like, that's not even a cool car. Sorry, but it's kind of not, you know? And so it feels like the tide has definitely ridden everywhere.
Absolutely, And these kind of era cars have really gained a lot of momentum because, again, it's the nostalgia thing. There's a lot of people now where their age bracket, you know, they've probably had kids, they're better off with mortgages, things like that. And so this sort of thing is now what they dreamt of or what they had when they were 18 to 25. They can get back into that and live that nostalgia. So that's also inflated the market a bit more.
I'm only laughing that you say that because I'm currently doing a 180SX. And when I was in my early 20s, I had a 180SX, but I was like buying the cheapest intercooler that I had and crummy coilovers. And now I'm doing the 180SX that I always wanted, but I kind of couldn't afford or didn't have the facility to do. So I'm kind of trying to do it all properly and actually paying up. You know, my seats cost $4,000, for example. Whereas, you know, when I was a kid, when I was younger, I could never do that. So I think I'm probably right in that kind of demographic now of trying to do it how I couldn't do it back then.
And those cars have now become of age, you know. They were kind of cheap back in the day. Now good ones are hard to find, and now it's the nostalgia.
They're like $40,000 or $50,000
exactly.
now. It's crazy.
Well, Exhibit A of 10 years ago versus now.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what we're about to find out. Well, I'll call Marty over and let's see what this thing's worth.
I paid 25 grand for this car. I bought it sight unseen. I got a mate to have a look at it. He said, look, it runs and drives. It's not perfect, but it's okay. The truth is, at that point, there was nothing else out there. I also had one major thing I wanted, which is I wanted one that was painted. I didn't want a factory one that I had to deal with rust, and these things do have issues with rust. So I was very happy with how it presents, and still externally today, I think it looks really good, especially with the new wheels on it. But I paid 25 grand for it. Once I got in it and drove it and started looking closely, I figured to myself, maybe I paid too much. So that's where the car started, but since then, heaps has happened. So, I mean, you've kind of followed the progress of the car. So what kind of happens now that the value has hopefully been?
So we just need to get the modifications right so that your insurance is covered. If something happens, you're getting all that stuff sorted. And then we really just need to come up with an agreed value, which is basically a conversation between you and I.
And I'm just going to pop the bonnet so you can look at some of those mods. So how does that conversation normally happen? I mean, like the very basic version is it barely ran. And so the idea was to fix that and modernise it and make it the kind of car you can get in and you can just drive. So most basically, we convert it to EFI. That's the biggest change. And then tuned it, new radiator fan and a few other bits and pieces. It's all been about reliability and then again handling, because it wasn't that nice to drive. So new shocks, big brakes, and then of course the wheels as well. So that's kind of the list of mods, which I consider mild mods compared to engine swapping something or going to town.
Look, they're all fairly tasteful, and they're arguably things that don't polarise the car, so which is really good.
Reversible too.
Exactly. So they've all added value. Our value really comes from not purely what you've spent on it, but more applicable to what you've done that's added value. Because you've also taken some stuff off and finding a happy medium. The market probably since you bought the car is also inflated, so that the starting point is a little bit higher than it was. And then we take into these kind of improvements and even things like the wheels of what they're worth now, particularly because you've redone them. So to buy a set in this condition is obviously even more expensive than probably what you've invested so far. So that's what we really need to take into account and arrive at a happy medium between the two of us. So obviously, you know, the core car is probably gone up between $5,000 and $10,000 since you bought it.
Yeah.
And then there's the factor of the mods and things on there. So that's probably our starting point is around that mark.
And when we look at the market and the sort of funny jump that it's done, particularly, we have to mention it, particularly because of COVID and supply and demand, also the age of this car. I think these were already, I bought, maybe not at the peak, but I bought on the way up, definitely, because there was a time when you could buy these for $5,000 and they kind of worked, and then $10,000 was a modified one and 15 was off its head. Now I paid another $10K on top. But there was, at that point, nothing else cheaper, actually. There's a couple of ones out there that were like rolling shells or bodies that were rusted to hell, and people were like, yeah, I want $15K for it. So I wanted that with the bodywork done. So when you say it's gone up by $5,000 or $10,000, what's your take on the RX-7 market currently in terms of what you're seeing?
Look, as I sort of said before, is these cars are now coming of age because people between 30 and 50, this is what they grew up with, or they had when they were younger, or and they can come back to. Yeah, exactly. And they're coming back to that nostalgia.
And in terms of insurance, I mean, you guys have insured this since the beginning. Is it now just a matter of you go, okay, it's worth this much? Does it greatly affect premiums or anything? Like, how's that side of things work? Because a lot of people would be in my position. They've got their car, they've fixed it up a bit better, maybe it's grown in value by $10,000, then what happens now?
Obviously, the price goes up a little bit more, but it doesn't double. You know, if we go from 25 to 50, for example, it's not going to double your premium. It is all, it goes up sort of on a sliding scale. At the end of the day, the core risk is the core risk. So we insure the core risk, and then the values and stuff add on top of that.
Where it's garage, your driving history, all those other factors as well.
How much you look after it, how often you use it, all those factors. So if you're someone that only takes it out on a weekend, we obviously factor that into the price. That obviously makes a difference compared to someone driving it every day. Keeping it in a garage versus on the street, driveway, etc. Because it's even things like weather risks. You know,
of course.
Hail, all those kind of things, weather events. The fact that it's in a garage or a factory or a storage facility reduces the risk for us over someone who's keeping it in a carport or in a driveway.
Do you think anyone's banking this now, or is this kind of a bit sideways? Because I'm looking around here. I mean, there's stuff that I reckon just goes from collector to collector, if I'm guessing. And, you know, you can see some of them got really low Ks on them. This has been driven. It always has been. Now it's obviously going to dive off a bit. Do you think these will ever get to that point, or is this missed the boat, or is it not quite, is it a bit too quirky?
I think all these things will. They have grown a little bit over time, you know. We do sell quite a few early RX-7s through Shannon's auctions, and the reason for that is they're in that collector market now. They're starting to grow. There are people, again, whether it's nostalgia or whether it's simply the fact that it's getting harder to find good ones, and they're kind of cool, right? So there's that factor of taking them to a Cars and Coffee or a car meet or Time Attack or any event, and everybody still likes them and thinks they're kind of cool. So these things are still growing. You know, when you look at the Rotary trend, pre-RX-7, all RXs have sort of gone through the roof.
Oh, totally.
So you'd have to think that at some point they will start to follow that same trend. Maybe not as far as an RX-2 or RX-3 coupe, but you'd have to think they're going to continue to slide up.
A friend of mine bought a stock R100 a couple of years ago, and it's like 4 or 5 times. But he said it's the worst car he's ever driven. But it actually drives nice. This is in this weird in-between where it's still kind of, you know, it still has some modern stuff about it. It's still like a coupe, a sports car. I think some of things about driving it are terrible, but that's also, you know, I'm influenced by all the other vehicles that I've driven since. But
that's also the whole point of owning it, right?
Well, yeah, I guess.
It's quirky.
It's the flaws too. So speaking of flaws, I do want to highlight them because I think maybe this comes into it as well. Like there's some stuff that's not 100%. That came off on the highway. That part maybe used to be $5. Now that part is multiple $100s. I found one, but I've got to get it painted all the same. And if it comes to it as well, like, you know, if you look really close, okay, that headlining sort of like under here is a bit not that happy. But you can't get these either. And I spoke to some trimmers and they're like, can't do it, sorry. Which I imagine is a problem with lots of these cars now, right?
Hey, Martin.
Yeah?
How much is it worth, mate?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Look, I think the reality is these are probably somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 now.
Really?
In this kind of condition, it's a really clean car. As you said, you can get in and drive it. It presents well. Most of the modifications are usable modifications. They haven't made it unusable, hard to drive, hard to maintain. So when you look at the market at the moment, it's got to be somewhere there.
Right. And do those little problems that I just pointed out, which they affect me because I get in and go, oh, I've got to fix that. Does that affect it in a big way?
No, because you're not buying a car in a showroom. You're not buying a Tesla. You're not walking in and buying a brand new car.
It's not a new car.
That's part of the story of the car.
Because do you think there'd be some cars here in a similar situation where it's like they're 90%
Every car
done?
has a fault, doesn't it? Every car.
All right, I feel better about that because those things, like I say, they're really hard to get bits for. And I was going, oh, maybe it's not ready. Maybe it's, you know, this isn't done, that's not done. But what?
Well, I'm just thinking, right? This is worth $50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering how much that Mini's worth.
Dude, you're not swapping my car for a Mini.
We could.
You've got a Mini.
I don't have two.
You don't need two.
Yes, you
need
do.
two of them as bad as I need two RX-7s.
We need no RX-7s and two minis.
I agree.
So, yes,
I'm on the bandwagon.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys
So,
teed this up.
Can we please do the paperwork and
What are you talking
can we
about?
auction that
What are you
here?
talking about?
Yeah.
You
Can
can't.
We'll put it in the next one. Let's sign it up.
No, I'm
Yep.
honest question. Can
This
we
is,
auction?
this is the
absolutely.
part where he tries to auction my car
what
out
is
in front
the
of me. I'm not going to let him do
paperwork? I'm not
that.
even
If
joking
this gets
because
auctioned, it'll be up to me,
The
not
thing
him.
is that
He can
when
talk
we
as
buy
much as
these
he wants,
cars as
not
Mighty
happening.
Car Mods,
Yep.
we have a joint bank account. So
my
we've
God.
gone through this process.
Oh, that works really well. I like this.
Well, I sold one of his cars and he actually went to the police in where was it?
In Dubbo or something.
He went to the police in Dubbo, and do you know what they said? He said, my mate sold my car, and they said it's not theft if it's in my name. So can we please get the paperwork to sell this?
Let's do it.
Done. Can we?
I'll think about it. Maybe.
Yes.
That's a maybe. Depends if we can replace it with another RX-7 or not. Then we'll negotiate.
I'm sure we can find you an RX-7.
Good. I like this one.
So Martin,
Valuable old Mazda nuggets.
you've basically, well, it's doubled.
It's doubled.
It's doubled in value. I mean, that doesn't equate for the cost of the stuff and the time.
Yeah.
But normally you get a car you modified, it's worth less. This is doubled.
It's doubled in value, and it may have done that anyway, but all I know now is this thing drives really nice. It's injected, all the suspension's done.
Well, it should start when you turn the key, right?
Don't say that.
We're already ahead,
Perfect.
aren't we?
Didn't used to do that. Dude, it's kebab time.
It is kebab time. Let's go,
go.
man. There's a pretty cool space in here, isn't it?
Shouldn't really be, it'd be unacceptable to drop a massive skid in here, wouldn't it? Imagine if I just did a donut. No, I'm not gonna.
Imagine that, and
Sideways
crash
into
into
a
a
Lambo.
$750,000 Lambo GTR.
That would be bad. Thank you.
Motorbikes here as well. Oh, there's a Moto Compo over there. I asked them what it was worth. I assumed it was still 6 or 7. $14,000.
No
$14,000,
Legit?
people. $14,000 for a Moto Compo.
That's ridiculous.
amazing. All right. You could go to work on a Moto Compo, and you'd say you're on workers' comp.
Oh god. Workers motor combo. No.
You hungry for a kebab, mate?
So hungry for a kebab. I have not had a kebab in weeks. I'm going to say months. Maybe since the last time we got them when we did your Volkswagen BRZ buying thing.
Do you reckon the kebabs have also doubled in value?
No.
Well, how much is a kebab? How much would you expect to pay for a kebab? $8?
These days they're like $12.90.
See, that is doubling, because I'm still living back when a kebab, or falafel in my case, was like
$6.
$6 or $7. So if it's any more than 10, I'm gonna call it.
Where do you go to get your kebab valued?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah? So, just getting a kebab, look at that. There's a chopped fingers out there,
Sick.
and the Japanese chopped fingers.
Get your chopsticker now, Mighty Car Mods website. Click the thing.
You know, some people actually make YouTube videos of just filming themselves eat. I reckon it's grot. I'm just putting it out there now. I reckon it's grot. No one needs to see you eat or drink.
Cheers.
Good, Martin.
That's so good.
What are you doing?
I was just walking around. Hey, mate, Martin.
He's Marty when I'm in a good mood. He's Martin when he's in trouble.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Bye.